we're going to dive into the utility stitches of this machine, from using the blind hem to the 3-step zigzag stitch and overlocking stitches. These are all stitches that we can do with this machine. Let's start off by working with the triple straight stitch, stitch number 1, but in the white area. So turn the stitch length knob past 4 to the gray area. We'll just kind of pick the middle area. I'm going to first start sewing this on a piece of denim, but on the diagonal, which is the bias part of the fabric. It's going to do 2 stitches forward and then 1 stitch back. As it does that, it's going to give you a couple things. I really love this stitch. Use it so much. First off, it looks very professional. Next, it has been triply reinforced. So if you were doing something that had, I always use it for like when I'm putting handles in a bag, then I'll use this stitch across those handles so the weight of the bag, whatever I put in the bag, is really going to be supported, then they won't pull apart. Also, by stitching on the bias, this is going to allow you to see that this stitch stretches. So this is great on the pair of a crotch of a pair of pants where that area is cut on the bias, and you definitely want to have a little reinforcement in that area, wouldn't you? So this is a great stitch. You also have a zigzag version of this stitch. Stitch number 2, same thing. Leave the stitch length where it needs to be. This almost looks like rickrack. Kind of, it'd be fun if you did it with variegated thread, or use it as an accent for a stretch hem. Isn't that pretty? Now, you could also use that straight stitch for just sewing knit fabrics, and we can go ahead and use a couple stitches here for just a straight stitch that will go ahead and go through. Another thing you can use is just a simple zigzag, but make it very short. Let's do 1.5 and very narrow, also 1.5. So it's like barely going back and forth. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, but it will have a little bit of a stretch when it's all said and done. Alright, so here, see how that will have the stretch and give? If you do that with just a regular straight stitch, it's going to actually pop those stitches. So this definitely is an option for you. Okay, one other thing you can do with the 3-step zigzag, so stitch number 3, back on the orange side. So we're going to go ahead and make it all the way wide, and long stitch length, let's do 3 on that one. When working with elastic, we can actually use this and stitch through this. Remember that stretch needle that you had in with the pack of needles that came with this machine? This would be one of those places you definitely want to use a stretch needle so you don't get skipping of stitches. Sometimes when you stitch through elastic or the rubber part of it, the stitch will not form perfectly, and that stretch needle will help you. So you just give the elastic a little pull, and it almost shears the fabric for you. See how pretty that is? And then it will have the stretch and give there. Next, let's talk about an overlock stitch. Many of these stitches are overlock stitches. We're going to go to number 6 to start off with, all the way wide, and stitch length. Let's start at 2.5. Remember, we've got our little sewing reference guide right here down below that we can pull out. Look for that stitch, and then look for the settings that we need to be. Actually, down a little bit closer. I'm going to go down. Actually, it says 0.8, so I'm going to do 1 just for now. We're going to switch feet. So the new foot we're going to use, J foot, is an overlock foot. It has 1 toe instead of 2, but there's a little tiny pin in there. That pin is going to support the stitch as it goes off the edge of the fabric. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first show you what it looks like when you just work on regular single layer fabric and stitching over the edge. What we're doing is we're stitching so the needle is going off the edge on the right swing of the stitch. It's going to prevent, you know, those threads that unravel once you start washing something? This is how you prevent those threads from unraveling any further on a project. You can easily go around all your pieces with this stitch. Those of us that have sergers, well, sometimes our sergers don't have the right color on it, and we only need to go a short distance. This is the stitch that we need to look for and the foot to use. Now, the last stitch is always stuck on that pin. So when you pull out to the side, it doesn't come out. So you need to pull away from or out the back to release that stitch. See how pretty that is? And see these threads? They won't come out any further. We can also use this to create more of a hem. All right, let's do this on it like a neckline. We're going to take our stretchy fabric. I'm kind of cut a neck area out, little semi-curve. And we're going to use some ribbing. Because this stitch has some straight stitches on the left side, before it jumps over to the right side, it is going to both overcast and seam at the same time. Take your ribbing. Ribbing's usually a little bit stretchier than just regular knit fabric. Fold it in half, long and skinny, and then take both your edges of the knit and of the ribbing and match it with your single edge of the pink knit. When you lower down the presser foot, take a stitch or two just to kind of get it started here. I usually like to lengthen the stitch length just a little bit. If it's not going smoothly out the back, you shouldn't have to help it. Just let it pull it all the way through. Because I'm going to pull against it by pulling the ribbing towards me, but holding it straight out in front. My other hand is going to help guide the pink fabric, this curve, into the sewing area. So I'm stretching the white a little bit as I go, making sure the needle is jumping off the edge of the fabric here. There we go. Remember, for knit fabrics, we want to use a ballpoint needle. That way it doesn't make holes in the knit and make it a weakened seam for later. Isn't that awesome? Has the stretch and give that we need. And then on this side, I'll show you where you can see the white. See how it's created the stitches down below as the seam, and then it's jumped off the edge, so it really makes that edge nice and secure. Isn't that awesome? I love doing that. That's great for those like little bibs that people use and take like a hand towel, cut a hole in it, and then add the ribbing around it. Very quick and easy. Great gift for a new mom. Super easy. Okay, let's switch over to do a blind hem. A blind hem is going to be using a blind hem foot. That's the one that's clear with the little red wheel. The red wheel is actually adjustable, and it'll move the foot side to side based on the fabric thickness that you're working with, and then adjust it so the stitch catches the part of the fold you need it to catch. So the blind hem stitch is stitch number 5. 5 is just like that overlock stitch, but this time it bites to the left side. Once again, we have a little notation on our quick reference card down below for a blind hem, making sure we have the right stitch and the stitch length and width. I'm going to set the width to 3 and the stitch length to 1.5. To start off with, we need to fold our fabric and press it. That's going to be your final hem of your project, whether that's a pair of pants or a skirt or something. Okay, then we're going to take the fabric. I'm going to set it like this. And we're going to fold it all the way back to expose that raw edge back here. You've already overlocked this or done something to make sure that this edge doesn't unravel any further. This part here, this new fold we just made, is what we're going to bite into. We want to catch the needle as small as possible into this fold. And that's what makes it look like you've done it by hand. You know, my mom actually has an alteration business back in the day, and I watched her do blind hems all the time. And so this was really the bread and butter of her business. But being that this is actually a mechanical machine, we don't know where it is within its stitch. Watch this. We're going to hand turn the machine until we see the needle jump or swing to the left side. Actually, I only had to take about 1.5 stitches to get it to swing over here. Once it's swung over, I'm going to position it right above this fold. I'm going to lift the foot up and slide the fabric in or out based on where I want that to catch. Let's just catch it really close there. Sink the needle in. Then, sometimes I lift up the foot just a little bit. And then the red wheel is going to move this big toe on the right side in or out. And that way you can set it to be perfectly aligned, and then you don't have to do any thinking. All you need to do is run this fold right down the foot. There we go. And it will perfectly guide you all the way around your project. Okay, here's how you know you've done it right. So this is what it looks like on this side. That little bite is caught into the fold, and on this side, you can see it. When it has equal stitches, like these stitches are all the same size, fairly consistent, you have done it correctly. If you get bigger stitches, you can work on getting it to catch less of that fold. You just have to move the foot over so it just catches less of it. Sometimes, too, by using a smaller needle, we'll catch less of it also, depending on your fabric. Now, if it's nice and small, that's perfect. Now, sometimes you don't catch it at all, so make sure you test it and make sure you've caught enough of that fold. But when you have matching thread to the fabric color and you have done this, you would have not seen that at all. And that is a perfect blind hem. Okay, one more thing we're going to do. We're going to switch back to a regular presser foot. We're going to show you how you can adjust the pressure of this machine. So we're going to use a stitch number 6, but in the white area. Okay, switching the stitch length knob down to the plus minus and make the stitch width all the way to 5. Now, when you work on some fabrics that are stretchy, very stretchy, where you find yourself when it sews, it comes out a little wavy, you're going to find that by adjusting the pressure is going to make it really work out well. So on the side of your machine right here, you're going to find, here, let me turn it so you can actually see. See this knob? It's right now, it's pointing right up and down. It's at 3. We're going to turn it all the way to 1. So that's going to make the foot kind of look like it's going to hover over the fabric. So now when it's sitting on this fabric, it's kind of more graceful. It's gently setting on it. Now the stitch that we've picked is going to bite over to the edge, also create that seam, but now being that it's along the edge, it's overlocking it, so all these little fluffy parts aren't going to unravel any further with the fabric. I'm just running it so it will bounce off to the side. You know, I should have actually used the overlock foot because that would have been a lot easier to see. Let me go ahead and switch real quick, but that's actually what we're seeing. And then all you have to do is open it up and you have a seam and an overlock stitch all at once. Let me switch over to the J foot. That would be super easy. Still have a light pressure on here. Did you notice it didn't have any stretched out part of it when we looked at the seam? There you go. I sometimes like to use this foot because I can see a little bit more of where I'm going, and it's a little easier to guide. Probably not a big deal, but definitely just easier to watch as you stitch. So once again, a seam that's perfectly stitched all the way down. These are some of your utility stitches. You've got others here, but this really gets you comfortable with using the accessories that come with your machine.